I'm moving forward every day, Jesus. I just let him lead the way every second, every minute, every hour of the day. I'm moving with Jesus every day. 24/7 with Jesus every day. 24/7. I'm moving with Jesus. I'm moving with Jesus every day.
Do you remember the experience of Joseph and Mary taking their 12-year-old Jesus to the temple in Jerusalem and spending a whole week there? And on their way back, I'm sure they were talking about all the festivities and what they would have experienced, only to realize that Jesus was missing. Can you imagine the anxiety that overcame them in their desperate search to find their loved one? In studio today, there's someone who could identify with Mary and Joseph, having lost someone who was dear to them. And this person is Anton John, who is here speaking about the experience of his sister, Abigail Joseph, who even today is still missing in action. Anton, thank you for taking the time to share what I consider to be a very, very heavy experience, very burdensome experience, albeit about your sister and how long she has been missing. It has been about, what, 11 years now?
11 years.
Yeah.
September this year, the second would make it 11 years.
Wow, wow. I don't know how much you could relate to us, but could you take us back 11 years and tell us exactly what transpired, how you found out that something was up, something was wrong?
Well, actually, I could take you back 11 years as though it was yesterday.
Wow.
Yeah, because the memories, the experiences is still fresh in my mind. Details. I remember it was a Tuesday afternoon, just around 5:30 thereof, when my sister and I were under the mango tree in front of our home. I was actually underneath a car, fixing a car, and my sister Amanda was there, and we were chatting when Amanda received a call from our brother-in-law Anthony, stating that, inquiring if Abigail is down by us or if we heard from her. And that then drew my attention, and it was like, Abigail, 5:30, because her son was left at school at around that time.
Okay.
It was actually the first day of school, the new school term.
That's what Cleveland Temple
That
is
would have
like?
been Cleveland Temple Estate, yes.
Okay.
And that is not something that is normal for her.
Mm.
Her son is her eyeball, her everything.
Wow.
And for her to leave her son in school, that of itself would have triggered something.
For any parent to do that, that's
Yeah.
a matter of concern, surely.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So when we received that call, immediately fixing car was that stopped.
Right.
And we started contacting the two friends that we know her to have. She's not one who would have many friends. So we contacted her friend Natalie and contacted an elder from the church who she would consider her father. She'd call him father. And they both hadn't heard from her. So immediately that kicked in top gear, and we put stuff into action, and the family, we got together. Pastor, he came together as well, members of the church. At that point in time, it would have been Pastor St. Hill, and we went to CID, making the report to the anti-kidnapping. And at that point, they told us that they were unable to take the report as a kidnapping.
Right.
Because we must wait at least 24 hours
Right.
from the time when the person is missing.
Was missing, right.
And I found it to be, as being directly involved in it.
Of course.
You don't want to hear anything about
Right.
wait till 24
yeah,
hours.
Because the longer you wait,
Yeah.
it's the more.
That's right. That was actually playing in my
devastating,
mind
yes.
so much could happen within
In
24 hours.
yes.
And we want to wait.
Hmm.
So I was like, guys, let's do something.
Mhm.
But being a Seventh-day Adventist and coming from a Seventh-day Adventist home, and the pastor and the church members were there, we decided that, okay, we're going to put it in the hands of the Lord.
Mm.
And we started a prayer session right there at the National Library.
Mhm.
Because
This is what time in the
this
evening?
could have been around after 10, going on 11
Okay.
in the night.
So Pastor Rennie Sattel was there
Yes,
with you?
and
Okay.
his family, his wife,
Okay.
everybody was there
Right.
with us.
Mhm.
From the time we called them, they came
Mhm.
and they stuck with us throughout, even today.
Wow.
And we had a nice prayer session. But while we were even praying, I was still feeling as though we need to do something.
Of course, of course.
You know, so
how many siblings you have, though?
well, it's 5 of us.
Okay.
Right, for my mom.
Mhm.
I being the oldest boy.
Okay.
Yeah, that would have then put me in a position.
Right.
Because
Were you older than her? Are you older than her? Or younger?
Abigail is actually the first. She's
Okay.
the firstborn.
Okay.
I'm the fourth
Okay.
of all.
But being the boy, being
Yeah,
the man.
being the man, the
Yeah,
boy, the
yeah,
only boy.
Yeah.
You know, I felt as though it was my responsibility
Mhm.
to take care of the situation,
Right.
do whatever it takes.
Mhm.
And that was my whole approach,
Mhm.
that, hey, I need to get back my sister.
Okay.
Now, she's married. Her husband is there, and he
Mhm.
was present.
Right.
But I felt as though I need to do what I have to do.
Okay.
You know, I felt while her husband is there and she have a husband,
Mhm.
she also have a brother. And I felt as though that, hey, I need to do what I have to do.
So did you eventually do
So
something?
at that night, I stayed, we pray,
Right.
right? But after that, I didn't sleep.
Of course.
You know,
not.
I went on to the search because one of the things that the police officers told us was that, because I was asking questions, so why don't we track our phone? Let's track our phone.
Mhm.
You know, there's so much technology even back then. There's more now.
Mhm.
And they were like, we can't just track our phone just like that. There's a procedure that we need to go through. And it was not making sense to me.
Of course not.
And there was this officer who whispered to me, if you all know someone in Digicel or B-Mobile, you all can contact them.
Mhm.
However, we did. And the sad part about it is that person almost lose their job
Wow.
for giving us that information.
Mhm.
And I remember one time, a morning, we were home, family were home, getting prepared for our day, and police officers came at our home, and they were actually pressing us for information to find out who gave us this information.
Oh. So they didn't come to tell you about Abigail?
No.
They were concerned about
Yeah.
the
Now,
release of information.
at that point in time, I was prepared not to give them the information and go down, you know, take the rap for them.
Right.
But then, you know, the police was kind enough to say that they will not get into trouble and so forth. Thank God they did not get into trouble.
Right.
And so I actually had to give up that information.
Mhm.
And that investigation went on, and they understood the situation,
Right.
the managers of that company.
Right.
And they, quote unquote, give them a blight.
Okay.
So
This is how many days after?
This could have been probably like about the third day.
Third day after.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we got the information, and we looked at her text messages and her phone calls. And now, around that time, Abigail would have been, she was involved in crafts.
Mhm.
You know, she was a housewife, started her own small business, making all these crafts and delivering on her own. And her son told us that the morning when she dropped him off, that she was going to deliver a craft.
Mhm.
And even while we investigated the situation, we saw footage that she was last seen just after midday on the corner of Queen and Charlotte Street there.
Right. Mhm.
And one of my aunts told us that she came and checked her at her workplace, which is just across the road as
Right.
well. So we know, okay, that stuff was actually making sense at that point in time. But the police service, from our point of view, were not treating this as priority. And your family missing, and as they have this saying, is only when you're in it,
Right.
then you really feel
Feel
it.
it, right.
And that's a true statement, because even before that, we would have heard persons who would have gone missing,
Right.
and you'd be like, wait, boy, when will this stop?
Right.
And then you move on with your life. But when it actually hit home,
Tell you.
then you could actually relate with those persons.
Right.
And that was and is still our experience.
Right.
So now when I hear about missing persons,
Yes.
it really, bring
You'll be able to identify.
Yeah.
You'll be able to,
it really brings flashbacks
of course.
to that whole scenario.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's tough. That's tough. And I can imagine even now, because as you begin to think of the reality of, hey, I'm not seeing my sister. I'm sure you see images of her ever so often.
Yeah.
And they are so brilliant before you. And you wonder, well, how could she have gone missing? Because as you said just now, we think of what happened to other people, but when it happens to you,
Yeah.
I'm sure there were times you never thought it could happen to you. But
It's something totally different.
Right.
When it hits home.
Right.
And especially how it happened. And many times I would question, like, why?
Right.
Abigail was this, what we would quote as a church girl. We used to call her Mrs. White, because the way she would dress
I tell you.
and the clothes that she would wear, Abigail would wear a nightie, even today, from since she was 6 years old, with holes and all these different things, and she's comfortable. I've never seen my sister in a short pants. Even when we go to the beaches, she's fully covered, and she was that type of person.
Right.
So to think about this experience and the whole disappearance of her was like, why?
Right.
But when that happened, and because we were going around to different radio stations and television stations and so forth, so persons were actually contacting us
Right.
who shared or who went through that same experience. And it was amazing to us to find out that so many persons went missing in Trinidad and Tobago. It was really, really amazing. And that's when we get to find out about the whole human trafficking scenario.
So you fear that she was one of those such victims?
Our family, we believe that is exactly what happened.
What happened? Okay.
Because I dig into the whole human trafficking operation. And what I've realized is that in Trinidad and Tobago, there's not much of a demand for human trafficking, but there's a demand for cocaine, the marijuana. So what happens between Trinidad and the Spanish-speaking countries, the human trafficking is demanding over there. There is a demand for it. So what they do, they get the humans in Trinidad and they will trade them to these Spanish-speaking countries for the drugs and the guns. And that's what happened. Because at that point, when Abigail went missing, there were other young ladies who went missing. And when you look at the photos of these young ladies, they all look similar.
So you want to believe that she was certainly. We certainly have to take a break here, Anton, because what you are saying is heavy stuff.
Yeah.
Abigail, missing in action even in 2019. We'll be right back and continue this thrilling episode of Missing in Action. I'm here with Anton John, who is sharing his experience of how he copes with loss. In this case, his sister, who today is still missing in action. Anton, you did allude to the fact that you got support from the church, and I suppose you got support from other family members as well. How supportive were the police service? And this is not to discredit them, but you were in it, as you said.
Yeah.
And from your perspective, from your vantage point, how did you feel the protective services assisted you in all this?
Well, at the beginning, the response from the protective service, the police service, it was not good at all.
That's as far as you see it.
Yeah, because while now I may understand the whole procedures in which they have to take, I would understand that now.
Right.
But
at the time,
yeah. While it just happened,
right,
I couldn't understand.
Of course.
Because I would have been looking through the lens, hey, my sister is missing.
Of course.
Let's act now.
Right.
What procedure are you telling me about? Yeah? But now, as you understand the whole operation from their perspective, looking through their lenses, then it's like, hey, there's procedures.
It's difficult to see from their perspective
when you
are feeling that pain of loss.
Yes, of course. But even through the entire thing, I was not satisfied with the police officers to some point.
Right.
I must say the anti-kidnapping squad, and I could make mention of Sergeant Hernandez. He was very, very, very helpful. And he actually took this matter and he was operating as though Abigail was his own flesh and blood. He would contact us, he would come home by us, he would sit and chat with us, he would give us updates, but there was so much he could do. There were other police officers who I believe to myself that they were somehow involved and quote unquote corrupted. Right? And evidence would show, and their actions would actually show that, right? And the way they would have responded to situations and even information that I would have gotten or family members would have gotten and shared with them, the way they would have dealt with those information would have been like, but these people really don't care.
Right.
They don't understand. And because of their action, it then caused me to take action into my own hands.
Wow. Speaking of which, because let's put things in perspective. You did mention you got support from your church.
Yeah.
You would have gotten support from family members and friends and neighbors and so forth. You got support from the anti-kidnapping
unit.
Did God give you that kind of support that you wanted? I mean, I know you grew up in the church.
Yeah.
And it's expected that God will be your refuge and your strength.
Yes.
Did you feel that he was your refuge and strength in this time?
No. Pastor, to be honest with you, at the beginning, yes.
Right.
Because, of course, I believe in God.
Right.
And I know that he is my refuge and my strength.
Right.
But while we were going through the motions and the days were passing and the answers were not coming, we've been praying because we had tents at our home. Right. Pastor Dutton was also very involved in this case and giving that support to our family.
Right.
So I must say thank you to Pastor Dutton and Pastor St. Hill. Right. Pastor Paul would have been there, Pastor McPherson. They were the pastors who were, really there for us.
So you would think that with such great army of pastoral support, that you and God will be good.
Yes, of course. And, at one point I was like, we have what it takes, man.
Oh, come on.
We have these powerful men of God. We're going to get back Abigail.
Right.
And then when days were passing by and results were not coming, I was like, God, you're feeling me. And then I started to feel as though I am feeling my sister. And And that was when I say, you know what? And I had a grudge with God. And I was mad with God. And I didn't want to have any conversation with anybody, family members, friends. I was just running. I didn't even want to talk to God.
I tell you.
Because what happened is that we did flyers and so forth, and my contact information was on these flyers.
And this was on the news, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was on the news, the newspapers, all medias. And every single call that I would have got, I took it seriously.
Right.
And I would take information, I would pass on information to the relevant persons and so forth. I remember one night, prayer meeting going on outside, and I wanted nothing to do with God. And I was inside. And my phone rang, and this guy it was a prank call. And the information or what he was saying to me was telling me what my sister was doing. And that just got to me. And I took the phone off of my ear and I smashed it onto the wall. I was so angry. And there I broke down in tears and I was like, God, why? Why? You know, and because I walked away from the guidance of God,
Right.
or what God told us to do, that caused me now to turn to the wrong avenue. And that's when I was dealing with stuff on my own. I got involved with the wrong set of people and were looking for my sister on the power of man, oh Lord.
Using carnal means.
Using carnal means, that's correct.
Right.
And there, while I was in that, there God showed me, hey, I am still God.
Wow.
Because something happened that showed me that, hey, you could have lose your life. And then your sister would still be missing.
Wow.
So then what's going to happen?
Wow.
Are you willing to risk that? Who's going to go the distance that you going?
Right.
If you're dead? And the Holy Spirit continued to talk to me and continued to trouble me.
I tell you.
And that is when I was like, hey, Anton, no.
So without going into much details, how long was that process when you ran away from God and took matters into your own hands?
That could have been like the second week.
And how long did it last?
That could have been like for an entire week.
Wow. So you're doing things on your own.
Yeah, I was doing things on my own, running away from God, running away from people.
And God snatched you and brought you back.
From September 2nd, it was constant. I was constantly on the move.
Right.
So it was not one night of rest.
Did your family members know where you were and what you were doing?
One point in time, no. And they became worried about me.
Oh Lord.
Because they knew nothing of what was going on with me. I would have just pop in, pop out, and I was just going.
What about Abigail's mother, who is also your mother?
Yes. Well,
how did she react? How did she feel about all that was going on?
My mother, she was in a mess. She's still in a mess.
Okay.
In terms of this whole situation.
After 11 years.
Yeah, after 11 years, your firstborn to just disappear like that.
Right.
But I must say she's a very strong woman because she kept her strength.
Right.
And I would believe that would have been because of the support that she was getting from the family and from the church in particular.
Wow.
The pastors were always there with her, and they were actually paying particular attention to her to make sure that she was okay.
Right.
And she was like, don't worry, let's pray. She was actually keeping the family together.
Wow.
Let's pray about the situation. Let's talk about the situation. When the fact of the matter is, out of all my siblings at that point in time, Abigail and I are the only two persons who was in the church.
Right. Okay.
So my family would have been expecting me to be that strong one when I was falling weak.
Okay, so let's deal with that. God pulled you back.
Yes, he did.
What good do you see coming out of all of this experience so far?
Well, what I've learned from this experience this far is that God can use any situation to win persons for his kingdom.
What do you mean by that?
When I say that, I mean taking Abigail away from us.
Right.
Now, we don't believe, no time we believe that Abigail is dead.
Right.
But removing Abigail away from her family,
Mm-hmm.
knowing the type of person Abigail is,
Mm-hmm.
it questioned my other siblings and other family members.
Mm-hmm.
If God could take this nice, decent girl who's following him, then why? What is the message?
Right.
And our family realized that, hey, this was time for the others who have not yet given their
Okay.
life to Christ to give their life to Christ.
They did that?
And they did
You've
that.
got to be kidding.
My sister, one of my other sisters, she got baptized. Another one got baptized. And then my younger sister, she actually got baptized in your crusade. Yeah.
Okay, that's
breaking news.
Okay.
Yeah, she got baptized there.
And that is breaking news.
And of course, and that experience actually brought our family closer.
Anton, I'm sorry we don't have time to entertain the rest of your story, but in the closing moments of this episode, what got into your head to get back to God? Because Abigail is still missing.
Yeah.
But you are still with God.
Yeah.
And somebody will say, well, when she comes back, then I'll trust in God.
Yeah.
But you have decided to trust in God anyhow. What got into your head and into your head of your mother and the other siblings to come back to God or to stick with God?
Firstly, what kept me and what brought me back to God is knowing the life that Abigail lived.
Okay.
That brought me back to God, firstly. And I was like, God is protecting her wherever she is.
Right.
She's not dead, but God will bring her back someday.
Right.
And then a personal relationship with him, God, is what really brought me back home. Because it's like, okay, God. And then when I reflect on my life, I could have been dead through this journey.
Right.
He saved me.
Right.
He saved my family.
Right.
He brought the family back together.
Right.
So I was like, God is the man with a plan.
Right.
So while I am looking to run to the carnal, and I've realized that, hey, this could be spiritual,
Right.
then you need to deal with God.
Beautiful.
He's the only one who could handle this spiritual battle.
Beautiful.
And that's when I run back to God and I really shake up.
Right.
And with the foundation that I have as a child, growing up in the church, there's no other way to turn.
Praise the Lord.
Yeah,
Surely goodness
of
and mercy
course.
shall
Follow
you.
thee. So is not something that I ever regret, coming back to God, because even now
You've come back stronger because you preach.
Yes, correct. It brought me stronger, and now it put some sort of frame of mind to me that, hey, God is soon to come. Whatever happened to Abigail, if I don't live right, then I will never know what happened to Abigail.
Beautiful. Anton, you're going to take this program home. You're going to close it for us. With the final few seconds we have, somebody is experiencing the same trauma that you're experiencing.
Yeah.
They have a loved one that is still missing in action, but they are not so inclined as you are to serve the Lord. What are you going to tell that person in the few seconds we have until trusting God? Look in the camera and tell the person exactly what you want them to know.
Well, what I would say to anyone who's experiencing or who have experienced one that I and my family experience with somebody who is missing or lost, firstly, there's nothing you can do on your own power. We try the police services, we try friends, we try the carnal way, it didn't work. God is the only one who can really give us that comfort and that peace. So all you need to do is trust God. It wouldn't be easy, but trust God. But what is important is to build a relationship with God. You don't need to pray in a special way. Just talk to God the way you will talk to a friend. Cry out. The tears will run. That's okay. Pour it out. Pour your heart out. Let him know your situation. Let him know your pain, your sorrows. And believe me, he will comfort you and give you that peace that one day you and your family member will reunite someday.
I could not have said it better. Thank you for joining us. We look forward to seeing you again and perhaps seeing Anton again, who's going to tell us the good news of Abigail's return. In the meantime, keep trusting JC 24/7.
Thank you for viewing JC 24/7. Be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel and remember to inspire your living as you prepare for heaven. You can get it all on JC 24/7.